So here it is, Big Ambitions, which is an early access game. People say that it's an indie game, so-called, because it's basically a very small company. I would not call it a company that's dedicated only to this game, because if we jump over to the Steam page, we will find that they have also developed Startup. Now, where is Startup here? Find Startup. Well, maybe it's on better look on their own site. Let's see. I thought that would be easy. Hovgaard Games. There we go, Startup Company. So that was really their first game, and that was fully released in 2020. So that one's actually done. But Big Ambitions is the one that I wanted to look at. Big Ambitions is another business game, and it's arguably unlike any other that's come before it. It's effectively a game about small businesses in New York City. You could argue that it's anachronistic in the sense that it's basically impossible to do this business model in New York City anymore because it's so expensive to run a business that the smaller players have basically been long since pushed out, or at least they're on their way out. It's a very, very rough situation, which is unfortunate because it is very much an interesting thing to make a game about. And they have set it in the modern era with more or less modern technology. It's just that the business conditions in New York City have changed. So you could argue that it's a what-if scenario. Because it's also a what-if scenario because almost nobody inherits a huge amount of money to start their own businesses. Because the premise is your uncle here, Uncle Fred, has given you a bunch of money to start your own businesses. Of course, mostly you make your own money, but he gives you so much of a head start in the beginning that it's not really what a real person would normally have. Although it might be what a real person would have in that situation of actually starting businesses in New York, because you need a huge amount of money somehow. And it's very limited still. It's in early access, as I said. You can do fast food, and you can do a law firm, an online law firm, which seems really weird. You can do a web development firm or a graphic design firm, which are not the most profitable ones to run, as you might guess. And you can run a barbershop or hairdresser, which is new. You can run various different kinds of, I don't know what you would call them. I shouldn't even say various kinds. You can run a nightclub or a coffee shop. Those are the two social, venues that you can run. And the coffee shop doesn't support live music yet. I'm hoping for that. That's one of the things I like about coffee shops in real life. It would be nice to have that in the game. But right now, the only thing resembling that is the nightclub, which you can put a DJ in. You have to put a DJ in it, actually. They don't have an option yet for putting in a bar. Strangely enough, one of the most obvious small businesses that you could run, you can't run. You can run a liquor store, and you can run a supermarket. I don't know how many people are really interested in that. And they have a fruit and vegetable market, which they count as separate from the supermarket. Really, it's just a difference in emphasis. And I've found that you can cross the two pretty easily. Like if you build a big supermarket, you might as well put fresh fruit and veg in it, because why not, And there are also bugs in it. There are a lot of physics bugs in the latest early access version, which just came out a week or two ago as of the beginning of September when I'm recording this. And they've made the full-size van so low capacity that it's basically a car, which makes no sense. I mean, it's one of the stupidest mistakes they've made. And, you could argue the physics mistakes are stupid too, because they already had a working physics model in Early Access 2. Early Access 2 ran pretty well, which was something people commented on, that it was a relatively early version of the game. And it was surprising that it ran really nicely, But apparently there are some issues, right? Having said all of that, it's a phenomenal game in spite of all the bugs, in spite of the traffic lights not working properly for New York City as of the latest early access, which they've been told about also. And in spite of the limitations in the businesses that you can have. That's quite significant because the whole point of a game like this is variety, and they haven't really built that out yet. Luckily, I don't think that's really a mistake. I think that's just that takes time. Um, and, you can buy a yacht, of course, because you're a rich person. Um, the yachts are effectively outdoor beds right now, so you get like sleep time out of them, but you don't get anything else, which is really weird. It seems like it's a placeholder. Everybody hopes that the boats and the yachts will be greatly developed in the future, probably with private jets also, although right now they don't even have Kennedy Airport simulated. So we'll see, we'll see where all this goes. But, and you don't have helicopters either. So there are a lot of rich people things that are not in the game yet. But it's very, very impressive. It's kind of hard to appreciate until you've tried it. Like, even with all the bugs that it has, which I will go over, partly to educate you and partly to educate the developers who have very much asked players to comment on their work so that they can improve it. Yeah, so I will do a bit of a playthrough here. It won't really be a conventional playthrough because one of the things about this game is that, like some other games that I really like, it's extremely time consuming. So you can't really do it justice in a playthrough unless you're spending like hours and hours and hours of game time, which I can't do. I have a real job, I'm not a professional YouTuber, so I'll just have to give you bits and pieces of what is in the game. And it's appropriate enough considering it's early access, that it's not finished. This is not a finished product at all, not even close. And there are a number of mistakes, as I said, which are really fundamental. Hopefully that'll get worked out because the potential here is tremendous. Everybody has been saying it's an unprecedented thing to do in a game, even though, of course, capitalism games are not unprecedented. One of the weirder things that I'm hearing a lot about is how it's supposed to be a satire, like Monopoly, where you're supposed to be kind of a scummy criminal business person. But I haven't seen that in the plot yet. I haven't found it to be that type of game. They may be developing it into that. That's maybe their aspiration. But right now it's just straight business. Like it's not really done in real life. Much, much nicer than real life. But they have to build up the game because it's complicated. This is a complicated thing to try and make a game about, One of the things they've done is they've greatly cut down the size of the city map of Manhattan. Because it is based in Manhattan. They're trying to make it realistic, but they've cut down the number of streets. So by definition, it's fictional or fictionalized. Second Avenue is now one and the same with Park Avenue. Basically, Park Avenue has become Second Avenue. And so obviously, if Second Avenue becomes something else, it's a pretty downsized map, right? Fifth Avenue is still there. Broadway is still there. Times Square is still there, even though hardly anything happens there. Grand Central Terminal is there, which I like because I'm a rail fan. The Pan Am building, or the ex-Pan Am building right next to it, is still there. St. Patrick's Cathedral is there. The Chrysler building is there, even though they've restyled it into this other thing. So it's a lot of stuff that they've tried to replicate, and I really enjoy it. I really hope that it goes well. So we will take a look at it now. So to start out with, this is the main menu of Big Ambitions. Early access. And of course they're hyping each release. So they just released Early Access 3 recently, basically a week ago. They're already promoting Early Access 4 for 80 days from now, which of course will basically be the end of the year. So they make it sound like it's tomorrow, but 80 days is a while. And they also have said that they're going to release a lot of patches for Early Access 3 because of all the bugs that I mentioned earlier that came with it. So this is build 2043, and this is not the original build because they released their first bug fixes within 48 hours of the initial release because they found some things early on that they knew they had to deal with right away. Unfortunately, there are a lot of other things that they have not very effectively dealt with. It's really unfortunate. But we'll look at what's already in the game, what is indisputably working. Blueprints, this is the newest feature in the main menu, brought in Early Access 3. Blueprints is a shortcut that lets you save the configuration of the inside of a building that you're using so that you save a huge amount of work. If you want to duplicate one business layout somewhere else, maybe modify it a little bit after the duplication, saves you a huge amount of work. So it's hugely useful. And to make it realistic, you hire a design firm to fit out your building. So it's not like a total cheat. It's just an extra feature that makes the game more playable. The forum is where they discuss the development of the game, and the options are really important, of course. They are in any game. What I'd really like to see in the controls is an adjustment for the sensitivity, because the biggest problem with the controls right now is they haven't worked out how sensitive to make them. It's arguably too sensitive a lot of the time, especially when driving vehicles, especially because you're not in a first-person perspective, and so you're maneuvering this tiny little vehicle on the screen with very little camera control, which is another thing they could improve. And when you're clicking on things, when you're just a person walking around, that's also a problem, because that is not sensitive enough. You often have to click something 5 or 10 times before it works. So that needs to be bug fixed. But again, you could probably take a shortcut to that by introducing sensitivity controls, which most games have. I mean, again, this is early access, but I think that would be a huge shortcut to improving this, that they would not have to make their control sensitivity by default perfect, because that way players could adjust to compensate for any limitations. Another issue, I have it set here for keyboard or controller. Keyboards work fine with the game, other than the sensitivity issues. I've tried an Xbox controller with it, and the Xbox controller works quite well. The problem is they don't work well together, and you basically need both. If you're going to default to something, I would say use a keyboard, because the controller limits you so much and gives you so little to work with that it's only really useful when you're driving cars, because it helps to compensate for some of the physics problems and the sensitivity problems with the cars and the trucks, because you have trucks also, obviously, because you're a business owner. I'm going to get to that point in a bit, because I think it's another thing they could improve a great deal. Now, others, this doesn't really mean much. It's because of the English localization, and they have several other languages already. The game is actually Spanish, strangely enough, even though it has this very Scandinavian-style name. The company, Hovgaard. It's actually a Spanish development team, and they know English really well. I've talked to them, but they're Spanish, which is a little bit surprising. I don't know if, I wasn't expecting that. It's an interesting backstory, although they've brought in American developers too. I don't know how many people from New York City, but interesting, right? I have the game speed turned down here. Actually, what's more significant is that they've cut the default year lengths to 60 days, which I find a little bit irritating because you age much too fast. It's very depressing because you start at 18 and by the time you're hitting your stride, you're in your mid-20s, which might be realistic, but it's still depressing. To see, in 60 days you age a year. That's not fun, especially if you're an older person like me. You also have a radio, which is a relatively realistic radio with cheesy advertising and everything else, and very professional music. The music they've managed to get for the game is, I'm not going to play it for all the YouTube BS reasons. Actually, rather than overgeneralizing about the soundtrack, I could look at the actual source that they're using. It's this company called Epidemic Sound, and you get your subscription for royalty-free music. Real music, real impact. Well, I think what they mean is that it's at a professional level. So I say commercial artists. They're commercial in the sense that they work for Epidemic. Epidemic bill this music as royalty-free. So if we read more, the perfect plan. So you do pay royalties, but you pay them through Epidemic. You don't pay them to the artists themselves. And, you could see this as exploitive or not, but this is the contract that they have. And they have a YouTube, although the YouTube is mostly not music. If you're talking about the main channel, it's more about how to do video production on the internet. They do have channels for specific genres. So just for example, they have an electronic or really more EDM channel where they actually have music videos. And the way to find the genre you want is you put in Epidemic, some genre or another. So Epidemic Jazz, for example. Oops, misspelled it, but I got it anyway. So this channel, this channel is their jazz channel. And so you get all this royalty-free music on the jazz channel. That's how they got the relatively high-quality music for Big Ambitions, all from the same source. And I would say varying quality. I think they could actually find better stuff from the Epidemic catalog for a start. A lot of the jazz stuff they have is not very good, even though there's a lot of good jazz in the jazz catalog of Epidemic. I think probably the best option for improving the music would be to add stuff rather than remove stuff, and that way you don't offend anybody. Seems like it would make sense to me. So anyway, we'll get back to the game here. And the graphics, this is the lowest graphics setting. I have it on this right now because the game is still a bit of a system hog. Some of that is the graphics quality, but it's mostly not. It's mostly that they're still putting it through early access and trying to debug it. There have been a number of frame rate issues, and it's basically they have to clean up the code. It's not really going to be a system hog when they're done, because the graphics, as you'll see, are perfectly suitable for this game. They're also not world-class either, and I don't think they're really intended to be. That's not the point of this game. This game is like a business game. It's not really a simulator, per se. It probably never will be, and probably nobody wants it to be, really, if we're being realistic. So I have it set pretty low. I probably could go even lower with the graphic quality, but I'm not going to because I don't want this to be too ugly. I want you to enjoy this on some level, of course. So we go back to the main menu here, and you can load save games, of course. That's kind of a given. You have to have that in a modern game. And if you start a new game, like a lot of modern games, you have more than one choice. So you can go with a story mode where Uncle Fred is saving you from poverty and making you a billionaire. And there are different skill levels to that. I haven't actually tried more than the easy one yet. I will be the first to admit. And then you have a custom game. We'll take a look at that. If you look at this carefully, you realize that there aren't a lot of choices. This is, again, probably because it's early access, right? So the taxes, 10% tax, it's kind of cynical. It's going to be more. Even in New York, it's going to be more for rich people, right? Starting money, this is really difficult. This would be, in New York City, this would be like a month's rent, right? That probably wouldn't get you launched. But of course, if you know the plot of the game, you know that Uncle Fred normally gives you a huge loan. Really, one of his friends does. You play the game and you find out, right? And public prices multiplier, hourly, salary multiplier. One of the things you can't adjust right now are the employee salaries. They're determined entirely by skill level, which is very, very just, but not realistic at all. But you can multiply to make it more difficult. And you can adjust the interest rate of bank interest, whether negative or positive. You can disable aging, or you can start at an age after 18 years, although the premise is you're 18. You could also fix the 60-day year issue, so you can make the year 365 days if you want to in the custom game. Now notice, be careful here. You're saying all courses unlocked, all business are automatically completed. Okay, but here's the thing. Your achievements are disabled, which is often the way these things are. When you do the so-called cheats, when you deviate from the prescribed settings, there's a cost, right? I'm not going to go back here. So achievements disabled. There you go, right there. So there are downsides to it, clearly. I mean, I think custom games are probably what people do after they do their initial game with Uncle Fred, because you want to have your own plot of how you're going to make it in New York City, right? You don't want to play the same scenario with different characters. Having said that, if we start an easy game here, you can be all kinds of different people. And you have to be 18. You do start at the age of 18, no question. And if you want to fiddle with your character and you can't make a decision, you can click the dice here, and it'll give you random settings. So these different random people, some of them look believable, some of them clearly don't, like this guy. I mean, this guy looks like he might be like a guy you'd meet on a subway, like some really strange New York person, right? So he's realistic in that way, right? But some of these people look a little bit implausible. I mean, she might be real. I don't know if you'd be real in New York City. He looks pretty realistic. So you get like combinations of clothes and hair and faces and builds and so on, which are realistic or unrealistic if you roll the dice. This is another strange character with the sports shorts and the suit jacket. There used to be a stand-up comedian who made jokes about this. People who do this, who wear like sports shorts and their jacket, and he says that they like to shoot hoop while they wait for tables in the fancy restaurant. Anyway, and yeah, a lot of different choices. And like I said, some of them plausible and some of them not. Now, of course, if you go manually, you want to make the person look like you. It's actually kind of difficult. When I tried my initial character, I was not able to produce a character who looked very much like me. And that guy looks like Art Garfunkel, in my opinion. But here's the thing. There are only two face models. That severely limits you. There's that one and there's that one. And hairstyles, this isn't a lot of choice, let's face it. I mean, guys, even guys have a lot more hair choices. You can go bald. You can go the Joe Rogan. But have a few different hair colors, including the punk rock blue there. No green, though. I don't know. Blue hair. There are a lot of like terrible stereotypes about blue hair. I think most people who do artificial hair coloring would want green, right? Or cherry red or something. These are limited. What I'm hoping is that all of this is going to be improved upon in subsequent releases because it's early access, right? So hopefully there will be plenty of improvements that we'll see that will resolve a lot of this. Hopefully. And clothes. My honest opinion is, I think, I know nothing about fashion at all, right? I think these choices are very limited, though. For example, you have the hoodie, right? Black, that's not black. That's not a black hoodie, right? You also don't have the gray. I mean, this is really the gray hoodie. I mean, but it's two-tone like this, so it's not really what you would see. This is weird. The T-shirts are the best. The T-shirts are pretty realistic, right? You have this sort of baseball jersey type of T-shirt, too. And then they have the T-shirt for the software company, Hovgaard, right? Suit jacket. This actually, with these pants, it looks like a proper suit, right? So this guy doesn't look too awful in this. And Adidas, it's fake Adidas, of course, not real Adidas. They can't do real Adidas because of the licensing. They have this incredibly ugly turtleneck, and then they have these sort of frat boy shirts, which, you could make that of that what you will. One of the things I noticed they're glaringly missing is just a regular button-down shirt that doesn't look like it's worn by a frat boy, like without the stripes and without this ridiculous collar and so on. Like just like a shirt that some bland, ordinary guy would wear. They don't have that yet. And they don't have a normal turtleneck. Those are like the two missing things. The other thing about the suits is that you can't change the color of the tie. You can change the color of the jacket. Well, they have the slacks. These are actually pretty good choices. Slacks, and you get jeans of all the different stonewash levels, right? And you even like the white and the gray and the black. Um, Fake Adidas again. And cutoffs, I guess. These are supposed to be different stonewash levels. Cargo pants. Okay, they need to have cargo pants, right? Camo is stupid. Yeah, but this is one of the things that they're hopefully going to improve on. They need a few more face models, I think, for different people if they want to be themselves instead of some fictional character. And the other thing is, one of the other things too, roll the dice again here. Take a look at this. Everybody is the same height. You know, that's not true in real life. No way, you know. Because I understand that it's convenient. I mean, like an action figure, right now they're just putting the game together and they can't get too elaborate. But, I mean, the height should be one of these sliders because right now you only have degree of muscular tone, basically, and weight. And both of these are somewhat limited. So if I wanted to take some guy and make him completely jacked, right? Put him in sportswear, right? First. Okay, so if I want to make this guy completely jacked, okay, you barely see it. See, so even when in this, like this could be improved upon a little bit, or if you want to make him like some giant. I mean, he doesn't look jacked there; he just looks like obese, you know. So this is somewhat limited too. I mean, there are different levels of this that I think they could really work on. If I put that in the middle, yeah, he still doesn't really look muscular. If I make him really skinny, it doesn't look too much different, does it? Like if he's incredibly skinny, I don't know. So there are all these like adjustments they could make, like for example for height. Eventually, once they get enough time to put into that, you know. And yeah, I would like to see some button-down shirts, even though I'm somebody who doesn't care at all about fashion. I wear button-down shirts a lot, so I think that's probably why I'd like to see that, and more choices of hoodies probably. Women, I don't know anything about that. But I mean, the thing is I think women might actually complain more. You know, I'm stereotyping. But like they don't have, like if you look at the hairstyles, 1, 2, 3, other than bald, they have 3. Go to the guys. Four. Like, you know, like I'm stereotyping, but I think that there would be complaints about this. That there are 4 hairstyles for the guys and only 3 for the women. Like first and foremost. Now, supposedly the women were added later. That's maybe part of the problem. They're not as developed. You know, part of that problem is that like everything's in development still. So the women were added a few alphas in from the beginning. So they might be a few months behind in terms of the development of the game, possibly. That they haven't put enough work into them yet. But again, same problem with the face models, only 2. And yeah, like I said, hairstyle is probably inadequate, right? If you're comparing them to the men. Clothing choices also very limited. I mean, this looks believable, right? But they're limited. There are limits to this. There are significant limits, and some of this is just ugly, of course. It's a debate whether you want to put skirts in it, you know, but there are no skirts for women either. Only 3 types of shoes. There are actually more shoe types for men. Again, I'm stereotyping here, but that seems like a mistake. Seems like inadequate to me. But again, it could be the fact that there are fewer months of labor that have gone into developing the female characters. Possibly. Maybe. But this is, and actually, in a way, this is kind of trivial because when you see the gameplay, you'll notice that when your character is running around, they're very, very, very small, so you don't get to see a lot of detail anyway. So that's a defense. You could make that as a defense of these models, saying, well, look, like this is the closest you're ever going to get to this model, the way the game is played. So why are you complaining about them not being perfect? I don't know. I just think that when people are choosing a character to be themselves, maybe even a fictionalized version of themselves, they want more choices than this. That's basically, I think, what my point is. And it might be the reason for the randomization thing, because if you have the randomization thing, you literally pick a random character and they become a proxy for you and you don't care. Another thing I should add too is that you can change the clothes in game. That wasn't originally possible, but all of the newer versions, including the early access 2, which was current until a couple of weeks ago, even then you could change the clothes in the game. You need a wardrobe, right? But you can, if you have a wardrobe, you can change to any outfit associated with that sex. It doesn't matter. It's the other stuff that arguably, I mean, oh, and also the hairstyles you can change now too. That they have hairdressers in the game. But yeah, this is something I think that needs some development. Ultimately, it's a nice start, but there's a lot to be done here still. Anyway. So, let's see. I think I'll look at a few features of the game. Actually, we can do the opening scene to at least show how it starts, even if I can't really do a lot of gameplay because it would take much too long. But we'll do the start of the game, right? Start game. I will pick a randomized woman here because I haven't played a female character yet, and I don't know if you have an aunt instead of an uncle. I mean, again, you don't know what they're thinking. I'll fix some random female character to be the aspiring billionaire. I can't decide. These randomizations are really weird. It's very hard to take some of these seriously. Again, it's clear that they've literally randomized the settings. Like a lot of these like combinations, like nobody would ever wear in a million years, even in New York City. She doesn't look 18. She looks like 50. Let's see. All right, let's just guess with her. I don't want to spend all day on this. So we'll start with her. Oh, name required. Huh, what are we going to call her? I have no idea. I have no idea what to call this female character. Let's see. Putting in random letters here. Let's see. I'll call her Andrea. For lack of anything. I have no idea. I have no ideas today. So we'll put Andrea into the game here. So it is still Uncle Fred. Okay. So basically this is exactly the same tutorial or storyline or what have you as you would have with a male character. Fair enough. And you start out on the street at 8 o'clock at night, totally exhausted in Hell's Kitchen. The fictionalized Hell's Kitchen. And he gets you a flat or an apartment. That's his first favor to you.
Hey kid, I hope you're feeling better. Anyway, I talked with a friend of mine, Richard. He owns a bunch of buildings in Hell's Kitchen, and he's kind of a big shot. Well, the bottom line is he has a cheap apartment that you could probably afford. It's not much, but it'll do.
So she, zoom in here, there she is. Now, notice this little navigation thing here. 45 3rd Street in the Big Ambitions universe is actually in the Garment District, not in Hell's Kitchen. So we have to get across the street here. We have green light. People turn it on us anyway, realistically. The walk, don't walk signs don't seem to work yet. At least I can't see them working. They probably will work for too much longer in the game. Walking along with really, you run. You usually run when you're outdoors. That might be a plan for the future satirization of New York. So I'm going to send her into the free apartment here, for the moment free. The F key. If that'll even work. Who's fighting me here? Available for rent. Oh, I'm in the wrong apartment. That's why it doesn't work. Why am I... What's the matter here? I could try to rent it. Okay. I don't remember this part. I thought it was rented for you already. Okay, well, rent it. Oh, it was already done. Okay, close. Right, now we're going. I thought we had already rented it. Alright. Of course, normally it wouldn't come with a bed. Normally. So, so they have the goals that Uncle Fred gives you. So travel to and rent 3rd Street. This is incorrect. This is, again, like your European uses of... This is not 3rd Street 45. It's 45 3rd Street. Okay, sleep until full energy because you're exhausted because I guess you've shown up your first day in Manhattan. So you sleep and you set the amount of time. If you look carefully, the lower figure there is the time that you wake up. So let's be really hard about this. Let's say, because if I go to sleep now, my character goes to sleep, she will get more than 9 hours of sleep. If she gets up at 6, you might as well get up at 6 because she needs to go and do stuff first thing in the morning. So she sleeps. She has no profit because she doesn't own anything. She wakes up, and Uncle Fred comes to the rescue again.
I also transferred a couple of bucks to your bank account because I want to make sure you get something to eat, okay? Promise me.
$13,000 in the bank account. This is not what normally people have, right? And so buy a standard fridge, place the fridge in your apartment, go to the local supermarket and buy at least 3 units of fresh food, stock up the fridge with fresh food. So if we went to an appliance store, they're telling you to go to Square Appliances. There are actually appliance stores at either end of the fictionalized 3rd Street, actually. The other one is A.J. Ferguson. No, A.J. Peterson, excuse me. At the other end, but we're going to go to this end. This is actually, they make it out to look as if you're going north-south this way. You're actually going, we're actually going east here, away from the Hudson River, because they've kind of got everything out of whack here. They even use north and south, east, west wrong in some of the text, because you're actually going away from the Hudson in this direction. So Square Appliances on the corner. I have to get over there. We have a red here. This is the trick if you can't get the walk signs to work in real life, actually. Not foolproof, but... Okay, so when you get to the front of a building, you might have seen this earlier, you have a choice of looking it up in Bizman, which is sort of your reference for all the different properties, or go back, you can enter the building with the F key, but from this platform, you can't actually walk through the door. That's one of the problems, and I don't know if they plan on keeping that feature or whether that's just a placeholder until they figure out how to get the doors to work in the buildings. That's not completely clear yet. So we'll hit the F, we'll go into Square Appliances. Except it's closed. I just tried that. They have opening and closing hours, realistically simulated. I'm going to cheat a little bit here because I know from playing the game that A.J. Peterson is open at 6:27 in the morning. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to see if that cheat actually works. I will buy a refrigerator, but not from Square Appliances. So we go to the other end of 3rd Street here. Not quite to the Hudson, but maybe a block from the Hudson. So we go down this way, west this way. I know that I'm on the correct side of the street already. Notice as we pass each property, it gives a little pop-up saying what it is. Like you could buy it, you can rent it, you can shop there, all kinds of stuff. Okay, we're still red. Green, across the street. That's realistic, except they might have hit me in real life. And A.J. Peterson and Son. They open at 6 in the morning, so they're open now. So, buy a standard fridge. Unless they don't have them. I don't remember that part. Maybe they don't. Maybe I'm being stupid. Maybe they don't. Of course, the thing is with Early Access 3, A.J. Peterson was greatly expanded to accommodate the new kinds of businesses that were added, like the nightclub and the barbershop. So it's actually they might have removed the standard fridge, possibly, during the change. Let's see if I'm just missing it here. They have industrial fridges, but that won't, like, click the achievement, you know. Okay, I'm going to show you another feature of the game. That means leave with nothing, because we don't want to buy anything right now. We go back to Square Appliances. So I'm moving here to see the traffic light. Still a red light. Goes green. We go up to Square Appliances again. Now, of course, the time doesn't progress in real time. It progresses slowly enough so that you have to pay attention to realize that it's like a minute passes every few seconds. I don't know exactly how many seconds. But the day passes much faster than it does in real time. And so far, they have not added a feature that I'm aware of to make it real time. I think it's always going to be more or less this speed, unless you adjust the game speed overall. Okay, so I just knew that was going to turn red, so I waited for it. So I wait till it turns green, and then I'll cross it. But here we go. You can sit on a park bench and sleep. And the advantage of this is not just the rest, but that you can pass the time when you have to wait for something, which is the situation here. All right, so we rest. She gets up. 3 more minutes, the shop opens. We'll be the first ones in. Do you see how it's passing much faster than real time? Go in. Now in the appliance stores you can take a hand cart like this, a hand truck like that, or you can actually pick these boxes up by hand, even if in real life you wouldn't actually be able to lift it. So I can actually, as the woman here, can pick up a refrigerator in the box and just walk with it. And that's true of everything you can buy, no matter how big it is. You can, unless it's a car, you can buy it in a box like that and just walk with the box. So here we go. You go to the register, you click on the cashier. It's the fastest way to get this to work. It says it's going to charge you $1,800. You place the order, and you have your fridge. So you get to walk, and you can walk back home with the fridge without it hurting your back at all. Actually, I should cross the street here. I should take advantage of the red. Okay, then it goes green. You go back to the apartment. So, at the tiles on the floor, I assume this is supposed to be the kitchen. They haven't simulated bathrooms yet, except for in some of the bigger flats where they clearly intend to add them later, where they have more than one tiled room. So the next thing is to go to the supermarket. I already know which supermarket they mean. It's this supermarket that is special in the game called El Gato, because it is the only supermarket that they simulate which has jobs for you. So later on you get a job there to raise money, or at least support yourself until you start your first business, which is the point of, the game. It's how you get started, build your empire, what have you. Not really realistic, obviously, but there we go. So there's El Gato. We go in. And here's how you shop for groceries. You take the shopping basket here. You go to whatever fridge or what have you has what you want. So in this case, the fresh food fridge. Buy 3 units, as the instructions say. We check out. Place the order. Now if you notice the health bars up here, the red one is the hunger. Yellow is for fatigue. Green is for happiness. And so the happiness bar forces you to do fun stuff, basically. So you don't get to just work. You have to do, like, television and whatever. Like, literally. I'm not making that up. It's not a joke. Like, you have to watch television and play video games and go to the gym also. Not for your physical health, but for your mental health. Like, that's the whole thing. So it's one of the challenges you have to do, is figure out stuff to do to keep yourself happy. So that's one of the things you want to buy for your flat, possibly, is a television. I keep saying flat. You never say flat in New York City. You always say apartment. I lived in Europe so long that I'm thinking this way. Okay, so you put the food into the fridge by clicking on the fridge. Then you can consume food directly out of the fridge without removing it from the fridge. So you have the buttons for what you want to consume. In this case, we only have fresh food. So you click fresh food. She eats. And her...
Hey, kid. I've gone ahead and paid your first rent, but that's it, okay? You need to get out there and get a job. Anything at all. You just need a salary right now.
So then he's sending you effectively back to El Gato to get a job, and they have a job board. But at this point, it doesn't make sense to continue with this, because, as I've said before, this is an incredibly time-consuming game. So I instead will look at the various features of the game from a more mature game to show you how it works, because all of that stuff's worth seeing, I think. Actually, there's one more thing I should do before I start jumping into the more miscellaneous features of Bing Ambitions, is I should look at the basics, because weirdly enough I would otherwise be skipping over them. Basically, the point of the game is you start small businesses around New York City and build up your wealth that way. Now, I've jumped ahead to day 4 of the game here, where Andrea already has a job at the El Gato supermarket there, which is bringing in some money for her. But I'm into the part of the scenario where Uncle Fred has told her to start her first business. So she's already taken out a loan from one of the banks. That'll be explained if you play the game. And now she has to look for a location for the business, which is going to be a gift shop, at least to meet the achievements that are necessary for Uncle Fred. And then you quit your job at the supermarket afterward, obviously. But if we go to the Maps app here, we have to find a building which is 75 square meters, and which is retail. That's important. Now, they're not actually recommending anything that I can see here. It has to be in the garment district, but in my other games, I've opted to put my first business as close to next door to the flat as possible, because in real life that's kind of how you would want it to be, because if you don't have a car and you want to get to work quickly, with or without a car, you want it to be as close as possible. So we take a look at this one. That's already taken. Look at this one, it's already taken. Look at this one, it's already taken. Look at But this one, it's already taken. But this one is 75 square meters and is available. So the traffic isn't very high, and the capacity isn't very high, but it's good for a start, because you're not going to get anything better when you have very, very limited money, of course, because the better a location is, just like in real life, the more it will cost to rent it. So if we click Open BizMan here, which opens the BizMan app, which handles a lot of your business, it's kind of a miscellaneous app. Really, these three apps which manage your businesses are a little bit confusing. Really four if you count the employees one. But the daily rent, $18, which in the app, in what would you call it? In the universe of big ambitions is very low. It's, I think, the lowest I've seen so far. So we'll rent the building because you don't generally buy it. The building is valued at only $4.8 million, so it wouldn't be hard to buy it later if we wanted to, because you can make that much money from one of those businesses. So we rent the building, and then you start your new business. So it's supposed to be a gift shop, so we start the new business with this button, and then you have to pick the type of business. Now the scenario requires us to start a gift shop right there, but also notice you can do a clothing store, you can do a coffee shop, you can do fast food, all kinds of fast food actually. I shouldn't say all kinds. I really basically a pizzeria or burger or hamburger or hot dog joint, and you could theoretically do a salad place also. And then florist, also a bakery. I failed to mention a bakery, but the bakery would also fall under coffee shop probably. Anyway. So a florist, you can do a fruit and vegetable store, as I mentioned before, instead of just a supermarket. Hairdresser, that's new for Early Access 3. Jewelry store, liquor store, nightclub, and supermarket, which, as I said, is a little bit blurred with fruit and vegetable. But we will start the gift shop, which has no competitors in the neighborhood yet. We put the name here. And there's gifts. Start the business. No business type, I thought I did. Let's see, we'll try it again. Okay, now it's selected. So we start a business, and this gives us the statistics on the business, which basically are neutral or blank because there's been no actual business conducted yet. These tabs handle your inventory and pricing. We don't have anything to sell yet, so it's not actually a choice yet. The schedule for the workers, and also for opening hours for what you advertise to the public. Although you can actually open the shop yourself off hours if you want to. And then you have the delivery contracts with your suppliers if you have any. You can also do marketing, but you have to have contacts with the different marketing companies, which you can find in Manhattan. If you walk around, you can walk in and find one and talk to the person there. And then once you are in contact with them, you can do it remotely here. Then you have settings. The settings give you a chance to do custom icons for your business. I've done a few there. So the American flag and the Third Army and a few things for different gimmicky businesses. But here we just have a gift picture. But we could change the color, of course. See? Either the background or the font. Or the logo. So, anyway, leave it default. Close. But now we have to actually go over there and start working on the place. And this is actually, we'll first do that, but then I want to show one more thing. So there it is. We go in as before with the F key. So the front room is where you would sell the gifts. And then you get a storage room in the back. And most of the rentable retail space in Big Ambitions has a storage room. Not 100% of it. And the offices often don't have this. Offices sometimes have the storage room and sometimes not. One of the other weird things is, too, you can use the storage room to run the business from if you want to. So if you wanted to put shelves back here for the customers to go through. There's no ban on that as of, for example, Early Access 3 or anything like that. There's no restriction. It's just in theory you have a storage room that's separate from the rest of the business that you can fiddle with as you like. Usually you want to put storage shelves in here. And you also keep your hand truck in here usually, your cleaning station, all sorts of stuff like that. But, I mean, again, if you play the game, you get to see all that. You also usually get these bathrooms, but the bathrooms don't open yet. I guess that's for later, if you want to, like, upgrade the bathroom or whatever. But right now the bathrooms are just part of the scenery, if you will. And, of course, you can also redesign the interior. So the interior designer here lets you, for example, change the floor like this, actually I don't like that floor. Maybe this floor. Oops. It's a little bit tricky to work with, but oops, why is it not working? Okay, try it again. Oh God. Okay, try it again. It's getting annoying. Okay. So if we zoom in, see, there we got a different floor. And the walls are almost always unpainted. The residences sometimes have painted walls, but all the business units, you have to put something on the walls if you want to get any credit for having nice walls. So if we pick yellow paint for the walls or yellow wallpaper, it's hard to tell which is which, if there is any difference. So we paint the walls yellow. And this will actually improve your popularity with the customers and improve your business. So it is worth doing. It's not just for looks. Another thing you can do, of course, is you can hire workers. You initially do this through employment agencies that you have to get in touch with. So you have to go into town and find one, and then they show up here, and you can click on them and ask for workers. But I also wanted to look at the My Employees menu here. You have the tab for the employees you have and a tab for the potential candidates that the employment agency finds you, or which your headhunter in your own company finds you later on in the game. But if we go to BizMan again, notice BizMan now has listings for your businesses. So there's only one. You go to we go to Andrea's Gifts here. We go to Schedule. Schedule is where you would actually put in the workers. So unfortunately, we don't have any workers yet. Actually, the renovations aren't free. That's one other caveat I should add. So we have $1,810 for the renovation. Click apply. And you're down that much money, but we have a much more marketable space now. Sometimes they worry if your back room is not decorated too, but I'm going to leave it alone for now. So the next step, of course, will be to get a cash register and product shelves, which they're calling product panels in Big Ambitions. So for the gift shop, you want product panels, and you want to buy cheap gifts wholesale. And I'll show you a wholesaler later. But for the moment, we'll just take a look at the appliances. So if we leave the store here, and we go down to A.J. Peterson, as before, I'm actually going to show you something else too, while I'm at it. It's worth doing. Basically, I'll tell you what I was going to show you. Square Appliances sell the cash registers, but A.J. Peterson will sell you a checkout line, and either will work. They both come with everything you need. So if you want to buy all your stuff in one place, you buy the checkout lane there, and you buy your product panels both at A.J. Peterson, which is probably not what Uncle Fred tells you. I don't remember, actually. But the point is, you buy a checkout line, and I'll find the product panels here. There they are. You buy product panels, so let's just buy 2. And then you need the shopping baskets, because without the shopping baskets, your shoppers can't shop. And And I'm getting ahead of the game here because Uncle Fred hasn't told you any of this yet, but I know this because I play the game. So we'll check this stuff out. $3,500, but with the loan there, the cash is much higher than it was. $15,000 loan, see, is one of the tasks. Anyway, so you go to the cash register, you click on the cashier, get this, you confirm it. Head back to the store. I'm doing crazy stuff here, running out to traffic. And go into the store and set the stuff up. So I'm going to be very crude about this, very basic. So the checkout counter will go here. Place. Right there, very simple, very easy. And the product panels will go here. These will of course hold the gift. See, this one's set up for cheap gift, right? And product panel. And I can buy more of these later, but because they cost money, you build up to that. You use the existing ones to make money for more of them. At the beginning of the game, anyway. The stack of shopping baskets, we have to have these by the door. The customers pick up, so we put them there. Hard to decide where to put the checkout lane. Maybe a little like this. That'd be ideal. So when the customer comes in, they can take a shopping basket and buy. Now, I don't actually have employees to work this checkout line, but what you can do, this handcart will park here. You click like that, it works. I could just take the register myself. Now, it doesn't have any paper bags in it, so I have to get paper bags as well as the gifts to stock the checkout lane. But I could just start working immediately otherwise if I had product to sell. But I'm going to look at the wholesalers later, where you would buy the paper bags and the cheap gifts. That's obviously going to be about as simple as buying the groceries, and so on, that I showed earlier. So instead, I'm going to go over to one of the employment agencies. I'm going to jump ways and show how that works, because it's important to understand how the employee menu works. Because there was one other thing I wanted to show you. Okay, so here we are a little bit later in the game, and I'm at the Anderson Recruitment Corporation, which is the most basic one. Now, weirdly enough, it seems like it's too early for them to open, but that's because it's not 8 o'clock yet. If I recall correctly, they open at 8 o'clock. So we'll get to see what it's like to recruit workers in the beginning of the conditions or whatever. This little icon down here saying Uncle Fred's car, this refers to a free car that he gives you at the beginning of the game, which is basically a Honda Civic copy. They call it a Hansa Mimic. And it's actually a pretty good starter car. It's the cheapest car in the game, $2,500, which is nowhere close to realistic. But you get it free from him. And it's perfectly useful in the beginning of the game, actually. Okay, it looks like the Anderson are open now, so we'll try again. Okay, so you go to the recruitment agent here. Why is that fighting me? Recruitment agent. Maybe the wrong recruitment agent. Doesn't make sense. Let's see. Finally, okay. Basic management course. Ah, yes. That's an important detail. Of course, your Uncle Fred tells you to do that, too. It's one of your other chores. Let's do that early. We'll go to Manhattan Business School and do that early. So here's Manhattan Business School. I don't think it's based on a real school. You have to finish the basic management course here, so let's do that. You click Learn. I think they plan on expanding this, because notice they have way more than 2 classrooms. I think subsequently this is going to get a lot more advanced as the game is developed. Let's click Learn. Study for all day. Why not? Skip the time. So, I don't have the degree yet because you need, I think, 10 hours. Or not. Let's see. 0 hours, 0 minutes remaining. Oh, no, we do have it. Okay. Fair enough. They don't give us any banner or any announcement. Congratulations or anything. Let's do the other one. Let's do them both. Actually, I think they're not open. Can't actually do it. Okay. Let's go back to Anderson, but in the morning because notice the time there. Okay, so back at Anderson here. Let's see if it works this time. So we need Andrea's gifts, and we need customer service workers, basically cashiers, full-time. I usually get a few candidates, but one of the problems is it costs too much money to do it that way. So we will have to settle for whatever they give us. If you give them more time, you get a lower cost, except the problem with doing it that way is you usually want to train them up, and that can take a really long time, so it's best to have them as early as possible, and $500 when you have over $16,000 in the bank is not really horrendous, so we'll go with that. So in a day or two, because we specified 1 day, they will send us a candidate. But note this, they're now in my contacts for doing, I guess this would be phone calls. Looks like email, but they're making it out to be phone calls because it only works during their opening hours. But for the moment, we don't need any more employees, so I will close this and I'll be out of here. Actually, one thing that was mentioned there is that you need a cleaner eventually. And for the cleaner to work, they need a cleaning station. So I can get that next. I'm on the wrong side of the street. I should stay on this side of the street. So go over to Square Appliances because only Square Appliances sell the cleaning station. AJ Peterson don't sell it. And the other thing is that Square Appliances are not open yet because they don't open until 9 o'clock. So what I will do is something else, another little trick of the game here. One of the things you can do is you can use the park bench to sleep, which really, the purpose of this is more to kill time. You're not waiting forever. I don't want to wake up at 10, I want to wake up at 9. So we'll go back to 9 o'clock here, 32 minutes. And now we'll see if we can buy that cleaning station. Only have to buy the cleaning station, so I don't need a hand cart. Actually, I have a better idea. Discard. Get the hand cart. And I won't just buy a cleaning station, because I have a little bit of money, teeny bit of money. I can buy a cleaning station and a storage shelf for the storage room. So, checkout counter. For some reason it sometimes just makes you walk away. You should click the cashier, ideally. Place the order. They sell you your order. Yeah, that's the flat, that's not the gift shop. Okay. Here we are, in the gift shop. Yeah, the driving is actually quite difficult in this because the game control is really bad. That will hopefully be refined as the game is worked on. So here's the cleaning station. We'll put it in here. Already there. And the storage shelf. The storage shelf can take deliveries. That's really important. If it's more than the inventory in your shop. It does give you extra capacity. And it will be automatically loaded if a delivery overloads your shelves. So now I guess the key is to skip ahead to when we have the employee, even though this is not actually how I would do it if I were playing this for real. Alright, now, it's actually evening, but I've received a message from Anderson, and they have their employee that they've offered me. So we go to the My Employees, we go to the candidates. Amelia Sandoval is our candidate, and I'm going to take her because she's the only one. So I hire the employee. Then if I go to my actual employees, there's Amelia. And to train them, you have to unassign them. So I'm going to put her in training here. 20% skills. The disadvantage to increasing the skills is that their wage will go up. As I've said before, you don't directly control the wages. Having said that, you don't really want terrible workers because it will drive business away. Finally, this is what I really wanted to show you. Uniforms. You can give them a uniform. So this is the default. If you can create a new one, let's say Andrea's Gifts. You can actually make the uniform something relatively simple, although the name tagged shirt unfortunately only comes in blue or gray, which seems kind of irritating. You could do just a t-shirt. These other shirts I think are not as suitable. So I'm not sure what to give this person. Maybe a blue? But here's the thing. The uniforms have hats. This is missing from the regular outfits that your character can wear. You can't actually wear a hat. Only your employees can wear hats. And the hats they have are very limited in choices. You only have these 3 colors. You can also give them a visor or a headset. The headset is if for they're a DJ or something. But yeah, I mean, this is another thing missing from the clothing. Of course, you can also give them an apron, but you don't want your character to have an apron, probably. And then you have the women's uniforms being a little bit different, but really the disadvantage here is that there aren't enough choices yet. But I think the omission of the baseball cap from the fashions of your character is a bit of an oversight, because basically, even in New York City, Americans tend to wear baseball caps all the time. I mean, I don't, but I mean, most people do, right? So it's a missing feature of the clothing. But actually, weirdly enough, let's see if we can actually put together a uniform for the employees instead of just fooling around. So you don't need an apron to sell gifts, so we'll get rid of the apron. The baseball cap I don't really like in this case because it's bright yellow and I don't have a blue one. So we'll just go with the blue t-shirt with the jeans. For some reason they have 2 varieties of t-shirt here. Yeah, that's a pretty close match. So we save the changes, and then the presets will appear for any employee that you want to use the uniform for. So we'll assign the uniform to Amelia, and there we go. And you can see the statistics of her, like the hourly wage as she is right now, her age, which will determine when she retires. Typically the retirement age in Big Ambitions is around 67. So she'll be around a little bit longer, even though they have 60-day years in the default settings. So you get an idea. And of course, if you were going to manage the schedule, you can't do it here, but if we jump over to Bizman again, the reason we couldn't do it, of course, is that she's in training. But schedule, you would take your employees from here and you drag them into position, either for the cleaning station or the checkout counter for a certain number of hours. And you can, change the hours, not only overall, but also for each employee. So that's how that works. And also you have this temporarily closed switch, which we have on now because the business is not ready. It needs to be stocked. Okay, so here are some of the cars. that you can drive. Actually, you're given a car by Uncle Fred early in the game, but it's none of these. The car he gives you is what they call a Hansa Mimic, which is really a sort of fake Honda Civic, because these are all fictionalized versions of real cars. So this is obviously, they're saying Petroli's Phantom. This is the Rolls-Royce Phantom, and it's the most expensive car in the game, over $700,000. And I got it pretty early in the game, actually, because they make it easy for you to get rich in this game, especially if you have it on the easy setting. And this is based on the Ferrari SF90. Although it looks a lot like, a McLaren, in my opinion, too. That's because the real cars look alike. It's not because, they're trying to make it look like a McLaren. This is a Tierra Vic, which is obviously a Ford Crown Victoria. And I personally think I've decided this is my favorite because it can hold 12 boxes of cargo, even though compared to the other vehicles it doesn't really make sense that it would have such a big cargo capacity. You'd think that maybe the Rolls-Royce would have a bigger one, but it's pretty good actually, because the Honda Civic is 8, which is probably unrealistically large, and these, the Rolls-Royce has 8, the Ferrari has 3, which is probably unrealistically big also. But another nice thing about their interpretation of the Crown Victoria is that it's pretty easy to drive, and it's not common. These cars are generally very hard to drive, because if you can notice this just by watching me, that the controls are too responsive for a keyboard especially. The controllers, if you use a game's controller, it helps. It's not a solution, really. I'm going the wrong way. Here's another thing. Notice how violently it backs up. And if I... see, the steering's over-responsive. If I brake, it goes backward. There's actually a lag in the braking here, which is really nice, because once I get out onto the street, it's going to disappear. So if we drive out onto the street here... So I even damaged it by bumping it on the pavement there. So here I am. I'm turning onto the street. Okay, first of all, realism problem. Do a U-turn. Okay. Okay, that's realistic. I was going to say it turns too tight for a real car. It's not realistic. See? Like a Crown Vic can't actually do that. Even much as I like Crown Victorias, they can't do that. I mean, this is how you turn. K-turn, right? Or a 3-point turn, as it's called too. But see, I'm swerving all over the place here, and that's not me. That's because every time I do a control input, it overreacts. So I then have to compensate. It's very hard driving in a straight line. This is the main car problem, I would say, in the game, is control. And I think they could resolve this. See, it's overreacting all the time. And they could resolve this simply by putting in a sensitivity control in the options. That way they don't even have to fiddle with it that much. I mean, the players could fix it. Especially since everybody's got a different controller, especially. Now you look here at the icons, we have no cargo on board out of 12 slots. We have 94% fuel, which means it's guzzling gas at a very unrealistic rate. Although the other cars do too. I discovered that. I thought it was just a bias against the Crown Victoria, but it's not. The only economical vehicle really is the UMC UMC Desert, which is the full-size van, which I'm going to get to in a minute. So 89% condition, not 89% damage, and 89% condition, because I've been bumping into things, as you saw. I started at 100, and now I'm down to 89 because I've been bumping things. Now, here's another little trick. Not a trick at all, it's a game feature. Go through the intersection into the gas station. See how I'm swerving? Terrible control. But if you go into the garage here, you can repair the car for a certain amount of money. And the amount of money you spend, of course, depends on both how badly the car is damaged and how expensive the car is. So the Crown Vic in the Big Ambitions universe is only $11,000. So the repairs are really cheap too. It's one of the other things I love about it is that it's this really nice car that is very cheap. Very cheap to get, very cheap to maintain. You can refuel by going to the pumps here. Forever fuel. Now I've stopped. Notice it says illegal. That means that this is an illegal place to park. It doesn't mean that I've done anything illegal beyond that. And of course I've not parked. I'm standing, the term in New York law is that. I'm standing with the engine running. So this is actually legal. They say it's illegal. It's only illegal if I park like this. Oops. There. Now that's illegal. And you notice the steering wheel icon for the car turns red, warning you, hey, your car is illegally parked. It's kind of hard to see. You can also, as you can see, buy jerry cans for an emergency. Actually, if you go into the gas station, it's open 24 hours, just like a real convenience store, so you can buy food and stuff at any time of the day and night. It's very realistic, actually. You can't buy tires, weirdly enough, because they haven't simulated tire sales yet in the game. They may eventually. Anyway, if you leave the car parked illegally long enough, you get an email from the city of New York saying you've been fined. But it's important to remember that more expensive cars cost more to repair, which is realistic. But watch this turn. I mean, come on. You can't turn a car like that. I mean, not a big car anyway, as much as I like. Alright, so this is part of the problem. So we've seen the control problems. Now I'm going to show you one of the other issues. A couple of the other issues. Ah, see? Because I shouldn't have done that. That was a genuine mistake on my part. Because one of the things you notice right away too is that the cars are able to tolerate things they'd never be able to tolerate in real life. My Crown Vic has taken no damage from that. See that? It's still 100% condition. No way that would be true in real life, right? The traffic is pretty realistic. I mean, they're working on improving it further. I hope they do. But a lot of it is already realistic. So you're down side street. I'm actually in the wrong side street here. Well, you can see they have sort of a fake IKEA. I didn't actually want to do this part, but I'm going to keep it in the video anyway. My crazy U-turn again. You can't really do it in real life. Or maybe that one would have been plausible. I don't know. It's extreme. Alright, so here they have a divided. They're saying this is 6th Avenue. This is following the Hudson. Got a red light. Stop at the red light. But see another problem. See, I braked and then it threw me in reverse. Another control problem. Too much response. Got the green, going across the street. Okay, now, this is what I wanted to show you. Find a place to park. Ah! Okay. Do my crazy U-turn again. See, that's unrealistic. You can't do it. Okay, anyway, pull into the parking spot here. Now this is a legal place to park. And notice that they say it's free because some of the parking spots are realistically metered, so you have to pay a fee per hour. But this is free. Now I cross the street and we have a couple of businesses here. This is the fictional General U.S. Trucks, which is a truck dealership for your business. So you have two basic choices here. You have the UMC Desert, which I just mentioned earlier, and you have the freight truck T1. If you look at these carefully, you kind of recognize they're based on real trucks. So the UMC Desert is clearly a Chevy Express, and I think the T1 is supposed to be a Freightliner. Somebody who knows more about trucks could correct that for me. Now, these are quite nice, as you would guess. They're basically box trucks, not really semi-tractors. And so they have a cargo capacity of 60 boxes. And the max speed you can kind of disregard because you're always driving in the city anyway. They keep these low actually to keep you from losing control. This is like why they're doing it like this. That is really, I think, 45 miles an hour, I think. They're trying to, protect you from yourself. Any case, you can change the color, which is nice. Even purple or pink, however you want your truck to look for for your company. So these are very nice. The issue with them is because the physics model is so bad and because they're working on the traffic AI so much still, very regrettably, you can't really drive them very well. I mean, everybody's ramming into you or boxing you and preventing you getting anywhere, and it ends up being a demolition derby. They are useful for your warehouses because if you park them in your warehouses, you can hire a driver to do nightly deliveries with them, and then you don't have to worry about it. The trucks will just go to wherever you want them to go, stocking up your stores, and you don't have to worry about it. So that's the use for them. So they're useful in that way. As a vehicle which you drive, they're not there yet. I think probably they will be as they develop the game, but it's not there yet, regrettably. Now, if we look at close this window, we look at the desert. The desert used to be an excellent vehicle in Early Access 2 because it had a cargo capacity of 20 boxes, so that's actually ideal for the business, and it's more than any car by a considerable margin. For Early Access 3, for unknown reasons, they've lowered this to 14, which is basically like a car. It's smaller than one of the SUVs you can buy from the luxury car dealership because there's a luxury car dealership too. And, this is basically unworkable. My mature character that I've been playing the longest game with has one of these left in his fleet, but I'm not going to buy any more for him because there's no point. You can just use your cars and you're basically getting this pretty close to the same capacity. They have a pickup truck which has 20 boxes of capacity, but I looked up the specs of the real pickup truck they based it on, and it's nowhere close to the Chevy Express. I think there might be some political or ideological reason to making the van useless and the pickup truck more useful, because it makes no sense. Like the pickup truck, like in real life, has nowhere close to the capacity of the van, and it's so far from like reality that it's just not. It's just ridiculous. And the thing is in New York City, pickup trucks are used a lot by contractors and a lot by utilities workers. They're not generally used for deliveries because it's too easy to rob one, for one thing. The other thing is they're just not as big. They're nowhere close to as big as a van. And they've made it the opposite in the game. So, it's a huge oversight. Another mistake, you could argue, which has been controversial among both the developers and the players, is the price for the UMC Desert is only $8,000. And when they had the cargo capacity set for 20 boxes, it was 6. So it was like a used van. I mean, it already is like a used van, right? So this is all because it was only 6,000. Now we're going to lower the cargo capacity to 14 and raise the price, which doesn't make any sense. You just raise the price to 20 or 30 or 40 or 50. You don't cut the cargo capacity to 14. I mean, it's ridiculous. It has nothing to do with anything, and it makes it unusable. I mean, I would have a month ago recommended this as your starter vehicle. Like, you want to use this as, if you're going to have one vehicle for your character, buy this. Now I wouldn't say that at all. I would say get the Crown Vic, or the Tierra Vic as they call it. And that's clearly your choice, because the Tierra Vic handles the best and it's got nice cargo capacity. It's a nice car, just for subjective reasons. I mean, you don't want the SUV because it's this clumsy truck that probably rolls over too easily in real life. And the pickup truck is nothing to do with New York City at all either, So these are not, I mean, they've raised the cargo box capacity over this for those, and it's just idiotic. It has nothing to do with reality. I mean, that's maybe my biggest criticism of them. Other than that, they have these physics issues. Now, that's my rant over for that. The point is, though, the Crown Vic is even though it's not really a cargo vehicle, it's a nice car. And the other thing, too, is that you can have most of the goods you need delivered. The problem is it just takes overnight, as in real life. You can't get something delivered immediately by somebody else. And you can't get deliveries ordered on the weekends, even though you can get the deliveries on the weekend. Okay, so now I'm trying to decide whether to drive to the next location or not. I think I will walk. Walking will actually be easier. City cars, by the way, is where you buy cheap cars and trucks, as opposed to commercial trucks and luxury vehicles. The dealership for the luxury cars is in Midtown, but I'm going to skip it for now. All right. Ah! Oh yeah, I'm doing the opposite of what I'm supposed to do. Look at that. Red light and I walked. I should have waited for the green. All right, green. There we go. It still doesn't matter. It still tries to hit me. So if we go, here's one of the physics problems. I knew this was going to happen. This is why I wanted to show it to you. That's my one remaining van, for this character anyway. The crappy 14 box capacity. Notice how it's sunk into the pavement like that. Now, this is a physics model problem, not really a modeling problem. If I try to drive it, watch what happens. They've known about this for a better part of a week now, and they still haven't solved this. Disappears underground. Actually, I haven't seen this part yet. This is new. Okay, I haven't seen this. Okay, this is a different variation on the Earth. Because it's going to fall in perpetuity. Let's see what happens. I'm actually curious now. What happened before was that it would flop around the streets and crash into things. And you would end up like... totaling the vehicle and having to have it towed. Now I'm not even sure what to do with this because it looks like it's going to fall. Like we're already 10 kilometers into the Earth here. And it can't really die because it can't hit anything. Let's see if it hits a limit of the game's engine. Okay, I'm going to try something silly. You can call the tow service. Let's see if the tow service will respond. Because this is the solution. If you get 100% damage, you call the tow. Transport to auto repair shop. Of course, now it doesn't look like it's going to get 100% damage, so it will be kind of a irrelevance. But this might be the fix for this, as it's been before. Let's see what happens. It worked. Okay, so that's the solution anyway. They put me in the garage. Actually, because the van wasn't damaged by that incident, I don't have to repair it. So if I back it out, it's actually a little bit sluggish compared with the Convict. Actually very sluggish. This isn't a bad thing though because of the controls being so over-responsive. See, if I swerve that back and forth, it's much more controllable. Like if I brake it, it just stops. So the handle's actually better. I would almost recommend it as your main business vehicle. Big ambitions if it weren't for the cargo capacity being so silly. I really am angry about that because it was such an easy thing to avoid, and they, for whatever nonsensical reason, they made the van not unusable, but not really a van. So there's no point in spending money on an extra vehicle. You know, just have a car and that'll be enough. Anyway, so you got to see one of the crazier bugs in the game. I will now go and show a different bug, but I'm not gonna walk or drive there. I'm gonna just skip over and show it to you in a different clip. Here you get to see one of the businesses operating. So you have this basically pastry shop, coffee house, whatever going on. So the pastries, some soda cans also, and espresso machines there. Huge number of cash registers, although only 4 people working actually. And they realistically have people sit at the tables, although one of the things that's incomplete is that you cannot use the chairs and tables yet. That will probably be added later. That is a bug, I guess, or maybe something that's incomplete. You can't eat at a table. You can actually order from your own restaurant even, because this one is actually owned by me. But you can't actually use the tables. Weird enough. You also can add restaurant booths. Unfortunately, you can't use the restaurant booths either. So there we go. Some of these models have broken collision boxes, unfortunately. And it's sometimes unpredictable how they'll act. So here I'm walking by these tables and chairs and booths over here. No issue. This has actually been reported already on the forums. Not the I don't know if it's the same ones that you jump from, but the ones on Steam where people are reporting most of the bugs. This has already been reported. That you can. There we go. See that? There's a collision box holding my character in place. Probably. I mean, it's been reported that these boots can behave unpredictably. Because I mean, you've seen the other ones are fine. See? I walk past them, no issue. And there's a block. Could it be the chair? Well, no, because I have the same chair model here. I can walk by that. That's no issue. Walk by that, walk by that, walk by that, walk by this, walk by that. Oh, suddenly, a problem. I found a few of the models on the street do this too, but sometimes it's hard to trace which one. If you're on the street, of course, it's harder to trace which one is which. Like, what's blocking me here? Another model issue. Now here it's obvious because you can see, but I can go through that. What's up with that? See, it's weird. On the street it's harder to trace because there are so many models. Like there's another invisible barrier. I don't know what that is. Could it be the booth or not? What is that? Very hard to figure out. Very weird. And like I said, that's one of the bugs that's been reported. Hopefully with the vehicle in the street and then going crazy bug. That's something they're going to resolve. Just a little bit of fun here while we're at it. If we go over here, I don't know if you recognize where this is yet. Let that red light turn red again. Okay, here we go. It's very hard to see because the camera views are so limited, but oh, it's really a shame. Really a shame. Let's see if I can do it this way. Yeah, see this? Let's see if I can get up there somehow. I think it's blocked. Let's see if I can get up there. This, of course, would be Park Avenue in real life, but it's 2nd Avenue in Big Ambitions. I mentioned that earlier. Can I get in there? Cars can't, of course. Yeah, that's annoying. Okay, so we're on 2nd Avenue in the Big Ambitions universe, Park Avenue in real life. And let's see how good a view we can get of it. Yeah, this is no good. It's unfortunate. That's Grand Central Terminal. That's my point. If we go on the maps here, you can see better what it is. See? There it is. And there's, of course, the ex-Pan Am building and St. Patrick's Cathedral there. This is supposed to be the Chrysler building, but obviously the spire is totally wrong. I guess they wanted to give you freedom to use your imagination, but it's clearly the Chrysler building. Also, of course, Flatiron, of course. I don't know if that's the correct location. I mean, both of them are technically incorrect because they've changed the street names. I mean, this is Park Avenue in real life, 2nd Avenue in Big Ambitions. Now, weirdly enough, okay, yeah, I was going to say, I thought I hadn't rented that building. Yeah, I've never rented that one. I've rented this one to make it into a jewelry store, you can see. Yeah, so they've modeled a lot of the landmarks in New York City. I mean, not all of them yet, but they're well on their way. It's really nice, actually. course, we didn't see it, but down here you have the Hudson River. That wouldn't be 6th Avenue in real life, I don't believe. But the point is that you can buy these boats, and hopefully in future releases of the game you'll be able to actually sail these around or do something with them. Right now they're just de facto beds that do give you a boost of happiness the way a television would. So okay, what else can we find here? I better stop the recording and find something else. Okay, so before I do anything else, let's watch that traffic light there. This is another bug they need to fix. It's very significant. Goes to green. That's realistic. In America, you don't have a red, yellow before the green, but then it goes to red, green, and yellow to red, which is never correct in the U.S. The U.S. traffic lights never work that way. And the early access 2 version of the game, as I recall, by the final build, it didn't have that problem. Somehow it got back into the game with the early access 3. Somebody just not doing any research or not paying attention to what they were supposed to be doing. So you have this issue, you know. I mean, it's not that it affects gameplay, it just makes it gratingly unrealistic, like really noticeably so, because even in most of Europe, that's not how traffic lights work. It might work that way in Spain, I don't know. I don't know enough about Spain. But it's not realistic for the US, and it's also not realistic for most of Europe. It's just incorrect. And it really needs to be fixed, and I think it would probably be very easy to fix. It's just that they have not dealt with this really basic thing. Having said that, street signs, quite realistic. This is what street name signs look like. That's what an American stop sign looks like. As I said, these walk, don't walk signs don't work, but they look accurate also. Now, I also wanted to show you this. This can actually be a drive-in. You can drive your car into this, or your truck. Even the big box truck, actually. I've tried it. But this is your wholesaler. So you get all these goods that you can sell in your shops, which, when it's down like this indicates a shortage, because normally these are virtually unlimited. So you drive your car in, or you walk in with your hand cart or whatever, and you buy however many boxes of stuff. You go to the register, even from your car, without getting out of your car or your truck. You can click there and make your order and be on your way. These office workers here can arrange deliveries to your business, but once you've talked to them once, you can call up in your emails or your phone calls. They seem to blur phone calls and emails in this game quite a lot, but if I can find them here, there they are, New York Distro. You can just call them and order stuff. Of course, we're currently occupied, yada yada. They give you this error message, we're currently occupied, when you're in the shop, and you should really go and talk to them, actually. It's a little detail I forgot to mention. But I can go and talk to them. Start a contract, such and such a business, and then of course you can specify later what you want. I have all these like silly business names, but decline. Anyway, here we have a traffic jam. Pretty much realistic. You do to get traffic jams, especially at certain times of day. The UPS trucks are new for Early Access 3, even if they don't have the UPS logo on them. Very realistic touch. Early Access 2 had a little problem in that there were so many Fire Department of New York ambulances driving around that it was starting to get unrealistic, because they didn't have too many city vehicles they could actually put on the street. So, you know, they go with the Fire Department of New York, which you see them around, but I mean not that much. So the UPS trucks are a nice filler. You could argue. You can also take taxis. If you click on one, it takes you to the map here and you can go wherever you want. It gives you pretty much unlimited freedom. If we wanted to go to this business here, the 5 Cups coffee shop next to the Flatiron, it's very expensive, like $57, but it can take us there. Waste some time too. And here we are at 5 Cups Coffee House. You can go in, you could have coffee if we wanted to. But this isn't the point. This is not why I'm here. I took the taxi to a subway station. You can also use the subway in Big Ambition. So if we click the subway, same kind of map. We can take the subway over here to Square Appliances. And off we go. And it costs a few dollars. I think $3 here. And, sure enough, what else can we do? New for Early Access 3, we have rentable scooters. Not technically Lime scooters, but they're generic rentable electric scooters, so you can rent them for $20. You take the scooter. I'm having trouble. This is that clicking problem again I mentioned earlier. You have to click something a million times for it to work. Finally, it lets me do it. Okay. Confirm. And then you have a little vehicle. So even if you don't have a car, if you choose not to have a car or a truck for your business, you can do this. So, I'm going right through the red light. Didn't notice that. Sorry. Still, the controls are an issue, even with these. It's whopping all over the place. You can see the gameplay and control issues with this especially. But anyway, that's another way to get around. It's a terrible game control. Anyway. So anyway, one little afterword here. I'm basically run out of things to say about Big Ambitions. They've done another patch since I shot my footage, and I'm not really going to do any more because it's going to take just too much time to keep adding on and adding on, because they're going to do a lot of patches. Now, I'm trying to... I think these promotionals here are new as well, but I'm looking for the bug fixes here. Need more. See all updates. Yeah, this is what I wanted. So, in other words, they did a quick patch, build 2048 with a patch that I haven't tried yet. And then 2049 fixed a few more things. So if we go through the summary, they've mostly fixed some what they think are sound issues. They fixed a handling problem with the passenger SUV, the Nunavut. I've never actually driven that vehicle, so I don't know what they're talking about necessarily. It's not really the most realistic video. Well, it's not really the most realistic video. I keep saying video. It's not the most realistic vehicle for the game. Because really it's about small businesses who would use vans. I mean, the SUV might be what the business owner owns in the suburbs, maybe. I mean, it's certainly not what I would own, but it's just kind of a tangent. It seems like a distraction to me. It's more problematic, too. They gave it more cargo capacity than the trucks, which is stupid. I mean, other than the pickup. And the pickup is, again, as I've said before, unrealistically large as far as capacity, given the type of pickup it is. Fixed issue where vehicles would drive extremely slowly. I'm not sure what this is referring to. I mean, some of the vehicles are obviously designed to be slow, like the big truck, the box truck is designed to be slow, the T1, because it's a big diesel truck. And sometimes having a slower vehicle is an advantage because the gameplay, as I've said before, the game control specifically, is so sloppy still that you kind of need the vehicles to be slow. But, they're probably going to resolve a lot of those issues as time goes on. They've also fixed the traffic lights, they say. I haven't verified this yet, but I'll take their word for it. They're saying the paper bags weren't giving any alerts when a cash register was empty. I'm not sure if I saw that or not. Maybe that was a bug. I didn't see it. And then they did a lot of rebalancing of the hairdressers because apparently a lot of people really like the hairdresser business type. I haven't tried it myself, but apparently it's a big hit. But that means that people found a whole bunch of little tweaks that could be done, and so the development team relented and did a few changes to make it more logical. And they've changed a few of the rules regarding how many security guards will do how much good, and they've given them, I guess, bulletproof vests to mark them as security vests to mark them as security. I don't know if that really makes sense. I mean, aren't you supposed to design the uniforms, as I was showing earlier? But I'll see what that looks like. As I said, I haven't tried any of these fixes yet. It might actually be a week or two before I get back to the game at this rate because I have so many other things I'm up to right now. And they're saying, have you tried pushing this button? This is a new button that was added for Easy Access 3, and it enables your character to dance in a few different styles. And my understanding is it's for if you go to the nightclub and you want to dance along with the locals. That's what it's for, basically. It's kind of a gimmick, but it's fun. And these other bug fixes are actually in the version that I showed you, Build 2043. That was the version I did the videos of. So anyway, we'll see where this goes, It seems like they're going to be spending a few months cleaning this up before they finally settle on Early Access 4, which they're, I think, saying it'll be out in 79 days, I believe. Which sounds like it's going to be soon, but really that gives them a few months to tweak. And I hope they fix a lot of the little annoying things about the gameplay and that they give us a real van at some point. Even if the real van has to wait for Early Access 4. I mean, that was a problem that they didn't have to create. That's my biggest complaint, I would say. But anyway, and maybe everybody's complaint is these boats need to be usable for something other than sleeping. But they've said that would be a little bit complicated to implement. I mean, my recommendation would be that you have something a little bit like the casino boat, which I didn't show you at all, like this fake riverboat that they take out into the Atlantic for gambling. I mean, you could take it to Atlantic City, to like some generic casino there. That would be one option. Or you could take it to, Block Island or Martha's Vineyard or something, and they could do some really crude version of Block Island or Martha's Vineyard. Or they could just make it another flat that you could hang out in, and it could enhance your happiness or whatever. Could be a whole bunch of things. I really think they should reconceive them as a type of flat in a way, albeit one you can travel around in, because that's how real rich people use the yachts, is by, as, party venues or, places to put more luxury stuff. It would be ideal, really. And I don't think it would be that hard to implement because they've already done it with the casino boat, as I said. They already have more or less the infrastructure for that sort of thing. So, anyway. Hey, thanks for watching in any case. And maybe we'll get back to this in a few months when they come out with Early Access 4.